we'll get started. I want to call the meeting to order. This meeting is going to be recorded, so you'll be able to watch us later on after the meeting. So call the meeting to order, the May 31st, 2023 meeting of the Lake Quinsigamond Commission. And I'm going to review and act on the acceptance of the minutes of April 2023. Did everyone get a chance to peruse those?
I move we approve the minutes for April 19th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. Review and approval of bills and expenses. Our trustee treasurer is coming in. Do you have anything to report
Walking
on
in
the
as we
bills and
speak.
expenses, Bill?
It's supposed to be in the, I got an email that they'd handed to me at the beginning of the meeting,
Okay. They're,
and it's supposed to be sitting here by the time I get here. I don't see it.
okay. All right, we'll move on from that. Public participation. I don't know if anyone signed up for that. Okay, I don't see anyone in here. And we're going to go with the commissioners' reports. I'm going to defer to the end of it because it's all one thing for me. Mr. Pica, what do we got?
A few things. A lot of people are quite aware of it, but it's quite a pleasing thing to hear that the nesting eagles on Drake Island have appeared to be successfully raising 3 eaglets this year, beyond the typical 2 that they have. So that's nice to hear. Another thing, unfortunately, I've been out in the lake in the Half Moon Cove, and it looks like the Eurasian milfoil is returning. It's starting to bloom and come to the surface. Not as profound as it was previously, but it's there. I notice with heat, there's a lot of increased activity on the lake. It's really kind of a direct function of a sunny, warm day. The reason I say that is with the presumption of some increased patrolling on the lake. I mean, watch the forecast. If you know it's going to be hot and sunny, you know there's going to be more boats than average. Conversely, when it's cold and windy, there is definitely less boat traffic on the lake. Just an observation. And finally, Mr. Chair, hopefully the Lake Quinsigamond boating public will continue to be courteous when it comes to Thursday, July 29th, and the city of Worcester shooting off its fireworks. There's always a sizable to the tune of 100 or 200 boats that will anchor in the Route 9, south of Route 9 area. And, people need to remember that you need to have, their lights properly functional. When you approach anchored boats, you should do it headway speed. When you leave anchored boats, you should leave at headway speed. And hopefully the noise won't be so loud as you can't hear the fireworks. Let me leave it at that, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Lieutenant Parmentier.
Sir, our boat is in the water finally and functional, so we will be, we're on the lake. Actually, we're out there tonight doing some training. We have 5 primary operators, and we just instituted a protocol for operator training, and they're actually doing that tonight. Sergeant Vitols is out there with trainee. We'll probably have at least 8 or 10 this summer, and that'll give us better comprehensive coverage for the lake. Less gaps in coverage. The dock MOU with environmental police, I guess, is ready to go. We're going to get that signed, so they'll be able to be using launch by our boathouse. We are still waiting shipment on the jet ski, but it has been confirmed that they have it. They're just waiting for the trailer. As soon as they get the trailer, we'll have the jet ski. And we did ramp enforcement this weekend. They did over 50 boat checks, safety checks. They denied about 18 boats, and they towed 4 illegal trailers. The boat was also really busy all weekend.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for all the work. It's exciting with the jet ski and the dock for the MEPs. So, Sergeant Garman.
This is our first week on patrol. Actually, tonight's the first night that they're on patrol. we're gonna do a minimum of 4 nights a week, either 12 to 8, depending on the weather, or 4 to 12, depending on the weather. If it's gonna be 70 degrees out, I'm not gonna commit a boat, because it's gonna be 60 degrees on the. I found the hard way with regattas. If it's 72 degrees, it's like 60 degrees in the water. So I was ill prepared last week. But 4 days a week minimum. I'm sure the weather will improve, but this week definitely gonna, the boat will be there tonight, tomorrow, and Friday. I'm trying to follow the weather on Saturday, but I'm not sure. But I have one committed officer who is the boat operator, and I have 13 others that are trained that'll partner up with that boat officer. We've been trailering the boat. The fire department's boat broke down, so we've kind of taken over the boathouse right now as of tonight. We don't know how long we'll be able to be in there, but we kind of took it over.
They can beach it.
But actually our first patrol was Saturday, and the weather was nice. I'm sorry, Sunday. The weather was nice, but the lake wasn't overly busy. I thought it'd be a lot more busy with the nicer weather on Sunday. But we were out there from 2 to 6, and it was just a little bit less than moderate. I thought, there's only like 3 jet skis. I was shocked that there's only 3 jet skis in the water.
Wow.
On Sunday.
That is shocking.
Yeah. A lot of pontoon boats.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have their boats in the water still. Look at the docks. A lot of people are still boatless.
I'm one of those people. The cobbler's shoes, right? So, I had a question now. I lost my train of thought. Oh, so the boat fits in a boathouse?
By about 4 inches. We had to adjust. We had to adjust the garage. The garage had to be adjusted, so we actually brought it up now. It was 8 inches short. Now it fits lengthwise. The garage is 22 inches long. Our boat's 22 feet long. Our boat's 21 feet long. So we made it by a foot, and height-wise, we made it by about 4 inches.
Yeah.
So,
How'd you raise the top? You just
the boat guy came in with a couple tools and just adjusted the garage door opener where it brought it back a little deep, because it was like there was like a bend in it. Now it's flat, so we can get the boat in.
You go,
Okay.
And we were just trying to figure out where is there a new wake zone that's going in somewhere?
Yes, so, I wanted to ask you guys about that. So there's I know that the buoys aren't, did you get the whole package?
I have this.
Thanks. The buoys should be going back in at the Corzini ramp, pretty much in the same configuration they were last year. I just want to make sure that it spans the area there, because you've got 2 areas of concern, one being the Corzini ramp, and the other being Browning Beach, because like it or not, it's a swing area.
Yes, yep.
So, and kind of a makeshift boat ramp, which shouldn't be going on over there, especially with the rentals. But then the new one is going to be at Kings Point at the Narrows, up by Lake Park,
Yeah.
with that big new,
New houses, yeah.
right there. So one just south of the Narrow and one north of it.
Okay.
So that should kind of bring it down a little bit. If we can get it close to the center, it'll allow boat traffic at least to go by it, but it may be a concern if the rowers are gonna have to kind of figure that out. Oars in, I guess, when they come through it, but.
Okay.
So, but that's, I think, the only new ones. But we had requested that, we had, there's some buoys that had holes in them and sinking, so we need to replace a few of them. So I'm not sure where we are with that purchase, and we'll figure that out, but, that should be it. There's one other danger zone I'd like to mark before someone takes out their prop, the lower unit, I guess, there. So over by, Stoneland Road, right across from Twin Island. So, all good.
Just a comment on
Yep.
Chair. None of the rowers that I know of at any of the clubs are gonna complain about where the buoys are at the Narrows. They've been asking for 3 years for, please, let's have some buoys there to slow boats
Yeah.
down. So they're not gonna care where they are once the buoys show up.
Right. Well, we'll see. They complained about the ones at Corzini because they were in their way, so.
That was just the center one, because when they were practicing races from the Burn Street Bridge up to the 290 bridge,
Yeah.
they'd go right up the center of the lake, and sometimes with the coxswains were real low on the boat, they missed seeing the first one.
Right, oops. And the course is out.
Yes, I was
Right.
gonna say something about that on my
Okay. Oh,
turn.
sorry, didn't mean to steal your thunder. All right, cool. Is that
Except,
it? Thank you. Great news in the boat. I'm psyched that you guys will be out there. Mr. Polito?
Just a comment on the buoys. I noticed that the buoy was out in front of Lake Park at the beach, and
Yeah.
now it's gone.
What?
It's not there.
oh yeah, I noticed that too. I did notice that.
It's gone. It was gone this weekend. I don't know where it went.
1 second. Do you have information on the buoy?
Yeah, I saw one today at the entrance to Half Moon Cove.
Well, that's supposed to be there, though.
It's on shore.
Oh, no, yeah, we're waiting for, that's one of the buoys we gotta replace.
Yeah, the buoy that's on shore is on my property, as close to the gap to the Half Moon Cove as I could reasonably put it. And it has heretofore for a number of years, as you might know, been buoyed in the water, kind of at the entrance to but the bottom ring rusted away, and I jury-rigged it for like a couple seasons, but at this point in time, it's become dysfunctional, but it still has the sticker on it, so I still placed it on the shore. Frankly, as I said at the last meeting, the buoy's out in the water, people are more respectful of going in and out of that cove slower. It just seems to be, call it what you want, human nature, but we hope to have it back another one back in the water. But in the meantime, it's there, and you can read it.
Oh, yeah.
And if you
You know the depth.
cruise on the lake, you know about it, you know.
Exactly.
And it is a dangerous place for people to go beyond headway speed. I've, over the course of decades, witnessed a couple of minor accidents, but I've also witnessed many near accidents of when the traffic is heavy on the lake. People coming from both directions who can't see each other, and they just kind of barge into the gap, and all of a sudden they're encountering another boat, and they narrowly miss each other. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, yeah, I mean, the Half Moon Cove entrance needs a buoy for two reasons. One, it's shallow, like you said, so if you're
It is
going through there
shallow.
with your motor down, you're gonna hit, especially in the middle of the summer. And the other thing is, of course, and more importantly, I think, is that there's a visibility issue there. So, technically speaking, it does inherently a no-wake zone anyway, because, there's a kind of a dock swimming area on the one side, and, it's what, 30 feet, not even that, 25 feet across. So it's too shallow to make a wake. I mean, too skinny to make a wake. Okay. Ms. Emery.
So I do have a report. So we have a number of properties that are under active construction on the Worcester side. That includes 231, which is Lot 8, 235, which is Lot 9, and 255, which is under a DEP coverage. They're all single-family houses.
This is Lake Ave.
Yeah, it's all Lake Ave.
Okay.
Yep. And we recently approved at 249 an approval for a deck and stairs that would come down to the waterfront. They're going to repurpose existing walls and build a deck, elevated deck over the top wall, and then I guess the stairs down to it are fairly steep, so you couldn't really kind of extend them over a long period. They've just got to go down short. But we did approve that, so that's under an order of conditions. We do have an enforcement order update at 215 Lake Ave, where they need to restore the lake bed and 25 feet of waterfront area, and they need to remove a structure that's within the 30-foot buffer zone, because that's not allowed in our ordinance. And they had to provide an as-built plan for confirmation of these changes. They issued a Chapter 91 dock permit on 5/9/23. They're not allowed to have a jet ski lift, and there is a boat lift at the end of that dock.
And that's
At,
okay, the boat lift?
so, that's a question. That I will ask Eric Flint, who is our conservation agent. He did not give me that level of
He didn't
detail.
approve the jet ski lift because of Chapter 91, or because,
And
I'm just
so,
curious, it's not a.
I can get that answer
Oh,
for
okay,
you.
Thanks.
I was present at the meeting, but the details were fuzzy because we do so much stuff on the Conservation Commission that I lose track.
Yeah, I've been to more than a few of those meetings. You guys do get to a lot of stuff there.
And, I hate to say it, but I haven't reviewed very many of our minutes in a long time. We're a little understaffed on the minutes processing end.
All right. So that's 215 Lake Ave, not Lake Ave North, correct?
215 Lake Ave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there was another thing on Lake Ave North that they built stairs, they did an improvement on the bank, and I remember talking, this goes back to Stephanie Covino when she was,
Do you remember the address?
173 Lake Ave.
no,
North?
it's on Lake Ave North. I'm gonna say it was in the 140s. It's one of those houses that are across the street, and
No approval for the stairs?
yeah, they built stairs and they put a dock in with piers underneath it, like they poured concrete into the water.
That
Which-
wasn't that long ago.
No, it was a couple years ago. Well, no, Stephanie was the person at the time. And that went back and forth, because I think there was just a realization that came about that the city owned the land. So-
Yeah.
So they built on city land and they got the thing down there, so I just wondered if it was, and then the dock, which was my guidance to the owner, was like, that dock's gonna get taken by the ice, which it did. So it got damaged by the ice the very next season, that very winter. So
Do you remember what year that was?
I'm gonna say this was probably 2020, going into 2020, I'm gonna guess.
Had to be earlier than that.
Yeah.
She was off the commission before COVID.
All right, so maybe it was 2019, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe right. COVID's like a blip, like the Marvel Comics blip thing.
So
Between the two, I don't,
ideally, what I want to do is kind of do from the north end of the lake all the way to the south end of the lake along the Worcester edge.
yeah,
Get an update on all the properties that have come before the Conservation Commission and that were of interest to the Lake Quinsigamond Commission, so that you have a comprehensive report.
that'd be great. Because technically speaking, all those docks on there are out of compliance, because they're not landowner butters. They're on a right-of-way. They're not even in the right-of-way that we're supposed to be. They're supposed to be at Swan Beach. But, the right-of-way doesn't give you the landowning and butter distinction, so.
And there's been a lot of change since they rebuilt the whole
Oh, yeah, yeah. They
road.
moved some
front
of them when they built that wall, because they were all along the wall, too. So, all right. Is that it?
That's it for now.
Thank you very much. That was a great report. Okay. Last but not least, Mr. Nelson.
Okay, just a couple of comments. First one real quick. As probably everybody knows, we're living around the lake, the college and high school racing is over as of last weekend. And the only reason I want to mention that is, since you probably already know that, is we have until October, till before the next course buoys are put in and the next ramp closures. So the lake will be free until sometime in mid-October of all of the paraphernalia that the rowing ends up putting on the lake. We've got many months of clean sailing independent of that. But more importantly, I want to mention, because most people don't know it, and I hope we're being televised now so they can hear this as well, is this coming Saturday on June 3rd is National Learn to Row Day. And the 3 boat clubs on the lake are willing to teach people to row. The Worcester Boat Club and the Quinsigamond Rowing Club, this Saturday morning, starting at 7 till probably around lunchtime, will have free rowing lessons for anyone who wants to go there and learn to row. The only 2 conditions are, and this is just due to their insurance requirements, the boat clubs don't have much money to pay for a lot of insurance, is 2 requirements. One, you have to sign a waiver that you can swim 75 yards and you have to be over 18. The insurance rates go way up for young kids being out on the water. And so just go to the Quinsigamond Rowing Club or the Worcester Boat Club websites to learn how to row for free this coming Saturday. And this is the U.S. Rowing Association in America sponsors this across cities all over the country. So this happens on always the first Saturday in June. As well as community rowing at Regatta Point. By the way, Worcester Boat Club's a Regatta Point, and the Quinsigamond Rowing Club is the Donahue Boathouse, for those people listening. You can probably sign up ahead of time by going to their websites, because they sometimes get filled up. They have to know how much equipment and how many volunteers to help. And as I started to say, the community rowing has courses all summer for people who want to learn to row, and that includes kids. They have a summer camp, I think, from 7 to 12 for sailing, and I'm not sure about rowing, but then they have junior camp from 13 to 18 for both rowing and sailing, and they have a senior adult over 18 for both rowing and sailing. But they charge fees, and that's the reason they get around the requirements for being over 18. As part of that fee is covering their increased insurance costs. So if you want to learn to row, this Saturday is your chance. 2 of the clubs are doing it for free Saturday morning, and that's it.
All right, thank you.
Can I add on to that?
Yeah.
I did that one year back in 2008 or 9, and I had a ball. It was a great experience.
It is. It starts out with, just to add a minute or so more, with 15 minutes of instruction of how you actually do the stroke on ergometers, and most clubs do it the same. Then another 15 minutes being instructed on where to step in the boat, where not to step, how to use the oar, what the different parts of the boat are called, what the different parts of the oar are called. And then I think almost a half hour out on the water, where every boat is half new people and half experienced rowers, so they alternate. And I have seen some of those boats literally moving like they've been rowing for a month after that half-hour experience. And there'll be a safety boat and a coach boat with every single 8 that goes out on the lake.
I got to do the coxswain thing. That was hard. That was a hard job.
It's incredibly hard to get trained coxswains for any sort of club or any sort of reunion row at a university or a boat club. It's just very, very hard. They're in demand.
There you go. Any coxswains out there? We're looking for you. I also did learn to row. I actually filmed one of the lake shows there during it, so that was an interesting experience. Apparently, I wasn't very good at it because the coach had a lot of guidance while we were out in the boat.
One year when I was teaching, Angela showed up, and she was excellent by the time the hour was over.
There you go.
So we should compete her against you and see what happens.
I'm sure she'd win. We'll do it on the Wachusett Reservoir, on her home territory. All right, great. Thanks, Bill. That's exciting. Lake management update. I'm going to start out with this happy news is that the state has approved our $40,000 appropriation that we put in for, I'm going to say it was in late December. So that got approved. We got to go and get the money. So that's another little bit of a process. But the good news is it's appropriated, so it's earmarked for us to help us pay for lake management stuff, weed control, buying new buoys, and what we need to do. Maybe some signage if we need signs at, like, say, the boat ramp or one of those things, and marketing materials as we've talked about. So great news. So I'm glad that we can thank Senator Mike Moore and Representative Hannah Kane from Shrewsbury here, and Mike's the senator all over, that they got this to go through. So that's good news. It's very helpful. All right. The drawdown, we're still waiting for, I'm still waiting for a better confirmation on what the status of our permits are, because there's some question, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, Ken, because I spoke with with the agent regarding the permits, and they expire in 2023, so we can go for an extension. But my understanding is, according to Leah, that it's automatically extended because we're still under the COVID rule, I guess. So
We better make sure of that.
I-
because
oh, yeah, we do have to make
We've
sure.
been given extensions on a lot of other requests, so we want to make sure that I'll follow up. I'll
all right,
ask her the
please,
question.
yeah. Same, Amanda, with you. I know Worcester, we got a 1-year extension last year. We're going to have to do that again,
On the,
or whatever we need to do. If we need to refile, that's that. But on the drawdown permit. And I'll go back to Grafton.
At a minimum, just send an email requesting an extension for 3 years.
Okay,
Just do that, and then you're covered in case something comes up, and I'll follow
all
up
right,
with her.
I appreciate it.
That way, it's
Yeah,
in.
we're
you
hitting
don't
it from
lose
both ends.
lose the spot.
All right, good. Thank you. Update on weed map. We did that. We did the update on weed mapping already, yes? That's something maybe you can talk about a little bit when you come up, Jacqueline. Thanks. Natural Heritage, we have a meeting coming up with those guys. They canceled the last one we had scheduled, so I believe that meeting is next week. What's that? It's tomorrow? Oops, good. I'm glad one of us is paying attention. It's tomorrow. Say update on the invasive species treatment on Lake Quinsigamond and Newton Pond. I'm going to pass that down to, we'll get to Jacqueline's part of it. An update on the ACTA proposal for drawdown permits for Newton Pond. I don't really have an update on that at this point. An update on the Grafton CPC project, which we already, that shouldn't even be on there. Okay. And that leads us to an update from Jacqueline Burmeister. Perfect timing. How you been?
Yeah, it's been a little while.
I know.
Good. I'm recovering from a little cold, so excuse me if I'm a little bit, my voice
Horse?
is a little bit, yes. So you might have gotten these before. These are just yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can, I actually have one, so if you guys,
Oh, okay. Anyway, so Jacqueline Burmeister, coordinator of the Lakes and Ponds program at the City of Worcester. And we have a lot of exciting stuff gearing up at Lake Quinsigamond right now. We have begun monitoring programs. And so at Lake Quinsigamond, we have like 3 in particular, in addition to what's going on with the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association. So we're doing twice monthly sampling, both in lake and in tributaries, for nutrients, turbidity, pH, dissolved oxygen, all sorts of things. We do profiles of the lake to look at how the water temperature and the oxygen is stratified. So we're out there, we're keeping an eye on things. The 2 sites in lake that we're looking at are a little bit south of DC, the rowing club, the Shrewsbury Rowing Club, and then a little bit south of the Worcester Lake Ave pump station. So, and then we have multiple tributary locations around the lake. In addition to that, we have volunteers that have been trained by the city collecting samples for cyanobacteria, which are those blue-green algae that people get concerned about because they produce toxins that could harm pets and people and fish. We have a volunteer now collecting samples every 2 weeks at Newton Pond, and we have a volunteer team that's collecting samples at in Lake Quinsigamond. And so far, things are looking really good, not just in Lake Quinsigamond, but in the other lakes throughout the watershed as well as in Jordan Pond, which also has a volunteer this year that has been bringing in consistent samples, which has been awesome. And then finally, we're going to be putting in those solar-powered monitoring devices. Hopefully next week they'll be going in. We're not feeling as much of a rush to get them into Lake Quinsigamond because, as you know, and you've seen in the past, a lot of the cyanobacteria issues occur more at the end of the summer. So we're hoping to get them in next week, start getting that baseline monitoring going, and coupling that with the volunteer monitoring and really understanding what's going on. New this year, and something that we're trying to implement specifically for Lake Quinsigamond, this is a Lake Quinsigamond project, is we're trying to track better all of the scums that are being seen on the lake. A lot of cyanobacteria blooms appear as these green scums that float on the water, and they're here one day, they're gone the next. It's really difficult for us to go out and track every single one. So we are asking for help from the community. We have a QR code that is on the sheet that I passed around and is available on the Lakes and Ponds webpage. This QR code will take you to a Google form where you could take a picture of any scums that you see on the water. You could use, if you are able to put in the location or the GPS coordinates of where you see it or the picture. That would really help us understand when these things are occurring, where these things are occurring, and really target our investigations a little bit more. So we are asking for your help from the community to help us track these things down. Again, this is a little bit early to be talking about it. I'm going to talk about it every meeting, just so that people, when the fall comes and these things start appearing, people know how they can report them to us. The first one, we're going to go out there, we're going to collect samples, we're going to determine if this is indeed cyanobacteria, and then we're probably going to send out a little press release so that people know that this is happening to, how to keep safe. Usually it's happening in the fall again, so we're not worrying about that recreational contact, but it's just something we want people to know about. Other things that we have going on related to management, and this touches directly on what the chair was just talking about when it comes to the lake management plans, is last year we had some invasive aquatic plant mapping that we performed on Lake Quinsigamond. And this was basically an update to a map that hadn't been updated since probably 2017 or 2018. And as we all know, these invasive plants have the ability to multiply and travel and be brought around by boat propellers. So these maps, in addition to being helpful for us studying a lake, they're helpful for when we're doing our lake treatments. So I've been working with the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association, as well as Chairperson Peter Collins, about trying to figure out how we can work together, understanding the different constraints of municipalities and procurement issues, so that Worcester is able to work with Shrewsbury and the Commission to cover the cost of these treatments. And so one of the things that we're able to do with these maps is divide up the lake, understand where these different invasive plants are, and create very specific bid specifications for contracting the treatment. And so right now, the city of Worcester has bid specifications, so specifications for work, treatment of plants in Management Zone A, which is pretty much everything north of that pinch point in the lake, right above Lake Park. So that area is not part of the zone that is protected for those aquatic plants that are considered endangered. So we are able to address those plants. We're hoping to get that bid out in the next week or so. So that will be out there. We're going to receive bids for a few weeks, and then hopefully we'll be able to select the winner of the contract, and we can get to work in doing that upper portion. Right now, the estimate on that work is looking about $60,000. So it's not a small job. Another thing that we've been doing is working with DCR. So one of the things that we've seen over the past few years is that there have been a lot of closures due to fecal bacteria at our beaches. And this is a very localized issue, but it's very important because when we have high levels of E. coli at our beaches and we have to close them, that affects everyone who's going to the beach. It also casts doubt upon the clarity or the quality of the water in the rest of the lake, even though a lot of these times these issues are very site specific. So we have suspected for a long time that the cause of these issues are geese. And so we have been experimenting with goose fencing in other lakes in Worcester, and we're working with DCR now to implement goose fencing at the DCR beaches. And so we've left some goose fencing with them. We've done some trainings, and we are hoping that they will be able to start utilizing that at the beaches. And the way that it works is that it just stops geese from coming up on the beach where they tend to hang out and leave their droppings, which then cause spikes in the level of bacteria in the water. And so in other beaches, we found that not only does this make the beach cleaner, it makes it a more pleasant experience for the lifeguards, who are usually the ones that have to pick up all that in the morning. But then also our water quality results are much better, and it means more days with the beach open, and we all know we want that at Lake Quinsigamond. So really excited about that. Finally, the last thing I want to let you know is that if there are closures, there have been a lot of complaints in the past about the system of notification of closures at these areas. So we have the red flags that go up now by DCR to let people know, but you have to see the flag to know if there is a closure or actually go to the beach. And if you are a parent, you know how hard it is to get your kids to the beach and then to go out and see that the beach is closed. That is a bummer. So one thing that you are able to sign up for now are text message alerts. These are separate from the 311 Worcester alerts. They are, anyone is eligible to sign up for them. They're through our Lakes and Ponds constant contact page. You sign up, you put in your phone number, and you will receive a text message if there is a closure of any kind at Regatta Point, at shore, at Lake Park, or at the 3 or 4 other beaches in Worcester. And so this will be very targeted. We're only going to be talking about lakes and ponds closures and beach closures. So, this isn't necessarily for everyone, so we didn't want to put it into that like red alert system that I think the police use when they're missing people or when trash is going to be delayed. This is a separate thing. So you can sign up for that on the Lakes and Ponds webpage at worcesterma.gov/blue space. And I think that's it. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
I have one question, and
Yeah.
I know I've asked it in previous years, but I'm going to ask it again.
Sure.
And has there been any further consideration of doing the DNA testing so that if it's dog stuff that's washed in from a rainstorm, you can identify that or confirm it's dogs, or if there's a sewer leak, you can confirm it's due to human waste, or if it is actually due to geese waste, instead of trying to solve the problem and still not being 100% sure of where these spot contamination sources are coming from.
Absolutely. Because as you mentioned, all these different vectors have different behaviors. Geese behave differently from dogs, from humans, and the way that these bacteria get into the lake is unique, and you can't solve one by trying to solve the other. And to that I say, yes, there are DNA tests. We have used them in the past. They are really tricky to use. And the reason why that is because our bacteria issues are not chronic. they are acute, which means that they're here one day and gone the next. Unfortunately, the current testing that we do has a 24-hour incubation rate. So that means if we go out and we take a test, we don't know the results if there's bacteria until 24 hours later. And usually by that time, the issue is no longer a problem. So if you have a $500 test and you want to go and see what that bacteria is, you want to make very, very certain that there's going to be bacteria to test when you're there. And so those are the struggles that we have had in implementing those tests. With that said, I know the Watershed Association is exploring it. We're exploring it. We usually have bottles ready to go, and if the right situation presents itself, we're able to get there. But it's really tricky unless you're like, spending a lot of time following results and being able to get down there at precisely the right time.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's been a correlation study done between the weather of any given week of the summer and when these spikes occur, because I'm thinking that, if there's a lot of humans in the water, you might see a spike in bacteria just by humans in the water.
Yeah, and that's another thing that we look at when we look at the data after the fact. And what we find is generally we see bacteria spikes after rain events, which suggests that there's some kind of surface runoff that's going into the lake. And so going back to what we were saying about the goose fencing, when the geese are hanging out on the beach, and then there's a rainstorm, we will see those spikes. So maybe all the waste or all the bacteria isn't coming from the geese. It is possible. We're going to continue to try and determine what those sources are. But in the meantime, the goose fencing is just a win-win for DCR, because suddenly they don't have to deal with the goose droppings on the beach anymore, and everyone gets a more pleasant beach experience.
Okay, any more questions? I get just a couple, on the treatment in Zone A.
Yep.
Zone A is kind of big, but I know that there's not weeds everywhere in Zone A, so this is, the bulk of it is north of the 290 bridge. Is that where the?
There
that
is
the
a
mill
lot
flow?
of it north of the 290 bridge,
Right.
yes. I believe overall, I don't have the map with me tonight, but I believe overall it's about 30 acres that's going to be treated with Priscillacor. And
30 acres?
30 acres, yep.
And why are we using Priscillacor on that one? I'm not complaining, I'm just curious.
No, the reason why we're using Priscillacor in that region is because, I'm sorry. Let me get back to you on that. I think the breakdown is actually something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I just don't want to misspeak, so let me get back to you on what the cost of that is.
all right. And so on, I know we talked in the past about maybe getting some help with the bid specs for other areas of the lake as well, like Zone C, which has typically the most dense milfoil
Correct.
and fanwort. So I don't know if that's something that,
I have already written the bid specs for Management Zone C.
okay, perfect.
Those have been written, yes.
Thank you.
And it just requires the town of Shrewsbury putting their boilerplate language on
Okay.
those specs, but those are all set to
Does the
go.
town, or do we have those? Or the-
I can send them to you.
Okay.
What you'll probably need, depending on what the procurement practices are, is an estimate. So you would have to reach out to a qualified contractor to
Right.
get that estimate.
3 qualified contractors if it's gonna be over 10, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
that's.
Okay, good. Jacqueline, thanks a lot. That's pretty comprehensive. One thing I forgot to mention in my, I just want to pass this by you too, in my management report is that we have been finding water chestnuts everywhere. It's not just in the areas that we saw before, like Round Pond or Old Faith. We're pretty sure there's a giant crop of them in that body of water north of Lincoln Street or West Main Street, north of the Lake Quinsigamond proper. That may be where they're coming from. A lot of people saw the black pods floating around, which are, benign at this point, but I think that's probably where they're coming from. But bad news for Mike here. It's not just milfoil in Half Moon Cove. We found the water chestnuts there too. So right in the mouth of it. You didn't put those there, right? Okay. So those are there. I found them just west of the Flint Boat Ramp. Out there's a small crop of them. So
Yeah.
they have popped up again in Round Pond because I noticed that as well. But that's the bad news. They're starting to be all over the place. So for those folks at home, if you see those, I guess I'm gonna try to put these images on the website. And you guys have them on the Blue Space Minute, right? There's a
There is a video on the water chestnut.
Yeah,
Yep.
so you can see what the water chestnut looks like. If you happen to be paddling by in your kayak or whatever, carry a bag with you. If you see these things, get them out of the water. They're easy to pick, you just pull them up. I mean, it's not, you don't have to pull the roots out. The only bad news with them is they have this spiny nut on the bottom of them. So you want to, be careful with that. But you put them in the bag, bring them, you can throw them. I understand they're good compost, as long as they're not in the lake, and, or you can throw them away. So, but these things are extremely, extremely aggressive. And if we don't deal with them, it'll just end up choking the lake. And I've seen it. I saw it at Patches. It was just like covered with it. Looked like you could walk across it.
It's a very expensive problem.
Once you get to that level of it. So,
Through you, Mr. Chair.
yes.
Is that part of our mapping process?
Well, the mapping process we did last year was late for the chestnuts come up, and then they kind of,
Dissipate.
they're still there, but, when we did the mapping, well, we had taken most of them out, actually, by the time we did the mapping, so.
We've kind of augmented the contractor-created map with our own experiences
Yeah.
on the lake.
Yeah.
So it's a real team effort, and a lot of it was done by volunteers from the Watershed Association.
Almost all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the town kicked in, they brought down a front-end loader, and we had 70 bags, contractor bags, I think over that, actually, that we dragged down to the Shrewsbury Boathouse and put up there, and they came down and got rid of them for us. So, it was a mess. And, that actually was one site that we did.
Would you say it's sort of an organic process where the weeds are kind of moving northward in the lake by seeding themselves?
In this
Or
case,
would you say that
they're
there's
actually
a
moving,
flow?
it's got, the natural flow of Quinsigamond is south.
Yeah,
But the dam is sucking it down.
so there's a source upstream.
Yep, there's a source in
Oh.
north of
Lincoln Street.
Lincoln Street. That's
So
not,
we
that's
need
not
to-
Newton at
I
that
know,
point.
but
Yeah.
We need
I
to
think, I
tackle the source.
think it's called Indian Head Pond. I looked at an old map. There's a question of what the name is, but that particular body of water has all kinds of stuff in there. Purple loosestrife, there's milfoil, there's, lily pads, there's all kinds of stuff in there, but, the scariest one is the water chestnut, because it's just the most aggressive plant, and those spiny things are dangerous. They'll go right through your shoe. So you don't want to step on them, and that's where they end up. They end up in the bottom of the sediment, and they can basically sit down there dormant for 10 years and come back up again.
So they're like triffids.
Yeah, so,
Well, I think that's a great segue to the next presentation.
from the watershed, you're all,
Yeah,
yeah, all right.
I guess so.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
Yeah,
Thank you.
before we move on to the next, can I just ask another question about the
Oh,
water
absolutely.
chestnuts?
Yeah.
That, no, body of water on the other side of Lincoln Street, we're not sure its name, has been literally covered with all sorts of invasive plants for as far back as I can remember,
Yes.
including water chestnuts. So it raises the question in my mind is, what else has changed that they haven't come down south into the north half of Lake Quinsigamond for years and years and years, but now suddenly they're coming down in great numbers? Did something else change to make this happen that we don't know about?
Anything science-related?
Well, I think it's important to note that while there are a crop up there, we have no idea how thick that was or how it's grown over time. These are very aggressive and they move very quickly. Additionally, water chestnut can be brought in from other boats, and as we know, that Lake Quinsigamond has a lot of boats that come and go, and they are known to be hitchhikers in the sense that they will travel on boats from other water bodies. So while we do have a source, and I think it would be beneficial to tackle that source in addition to these other locations, it's not the only potential source of invasive aquatic plants. And we cannot, at this point, determine if that crop down at the Stringer Dam is from the ones up in north of Lincoln Street, or if they were brought in by another source.
Is that something that can be determined by a DNA analysis of the plant?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Are they all related?
Yeah, that would be a really interesting thesis project of sorts.
There you go.
Yeah, close cousins or distant cousins?
Thank thank you, Jacqueline. All right, without further ado, the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association.
Hello, I'm Barbara Kickham. I will continue the discussion of water chestnuts. As I told you last month, we have a grant that we applied for and we are receiving from the Rhode Island DEM and New EPIC, which is New England Interstate Water Pollution Control Center, who is getting money from EPA. And they have included us because we're part of the Blackstone watershed. And so we have organized 2 weed pulls this year, and they're also funding us for next year, so we've already got that approved. The first one is July 17th. Next year, we'll try to do it earlier, but the good dates this weekend, next weekend, were taken by other people in this collaborative. There's a bunch of watershed groups, so we took the 17th, and then the next, we didn't want to do July 4, so it ended up being July 8th. So it's a little late, but the seed pods don't really start falling off till later in the summer, which is what you really want to pull them before that happens. And earlier, the seed pods are not as sharp and, not dangerous, but it's not as pokey. So through this grant, we are getting a pontoon boat from the Blackstone Valley Tourism Council. They're going to bring us a pontoon boat both days with a captain and a crew, and they're also bringing 12 kayaks on a trailer for us. So we're going to bring that up to the north end of the lake, because that's where we have the fewest volunteers, I think. We have volunteers potentially from Worcester State. I'm not going to put anyone on the spot. And we have volunteers from Brigada Point Sailing. They're going to bring some kids also. And part of the grant was we had to be a 501(c), which we are, and we had to insure all our volunteers. And so we joined this the American Canoe Association to get an umbrella organization, and then anyone who comes to pull the weeds will have to sign a waiver, and then we have to pay $10 covered under the grant for all our volunteers. And the Regatta Point is going to cover their own volunteers with their insurance, and I think Worcester State has their own insurance too. If not, they can be covered by us.
At least for our own students.
For their students, okay. And so they're also helping us with volunteers. this group, the Rydam Newly Pick group. They're advertising for us, but we hope to get a lot of residents there. We're gonna need a lot of people. We want people on land because last 2 years that we did it, it was difficult to get those bags off the boats onto the police boat ramp. They're really heavy, you know, it's awkward, it's steep there. So we're gonna have a couple of, you know, young people, hopefully strong people on land, at Gauch Park and at, the police boat ramp. And then we also understand there's a big, patch right across from Regatta Point, so we'll have to figure out the logistics. So the logistics is still to be worked out, but we're gonna, have water and drinks and food for people if they stay till 11 o'clock. It's gonna be June 17th from 8 to 11. Sign up is, I put it on the Facebook page. I'm gonna send out an email blast, and, they can contact, the commission, and contact us, whatever, and contact Regatta Point. They can just show up, but we'll have to sign a waiver. So we do need quite a few people, because we have a big place, and, but I want to reiterate what Peter was saying, with that people, if they see it in front of their house, just pull it now. You don't wait for the weed pull. If you see it, pull it, and, just dispose of it on land. And that's about it, I think. So, and the second one's July 8th. So June 17th, July 8th, put it on your calendars, and I will, bring it up.
Are they at different spots, or are they all one spot?
The two, we're gonna have, a boat down, so Mike Liberty will have a boat, but he and I are gonna be sort of coordinating, because that was a problem we had last time, is
Right.
just coordinating all these volunteers, making sure that people, so we're still need some tender boats, smaller boats to, move weeds from, the south end of the lake, from Stringer Dam up to the police boat ramp, and I think we'll have the, pontoon boat that we're getting, on the north end and taking it to Gauch Park. And we've got clearance from Shrewsbury. Kevin Esposito said he'd pick up the weeds, and that we're okay to drop the weeds off at those two locations. So I'm not sure if we need another one, like maybe at the boat ramp, if there's some more in the middle of the lake. So we'll have to, the
Figure
first
that out.
time's gonna be difficult. Well, the second time we're out there, we'll probably figure out all these things that we didn't think of as we're, trying to work this
So,
out.
so there's a patch across from Regatta.
Yes, your wife told me that yesterday.
My wife?
Yes. I didn't know that, but she said that.
Why am I always the last to know?
I know. I guess the Cronins told her something was on Facebook. There's a huge patch right across, on the Shrewsbury side, across from Regatta Point. So I
Alright.
haven't even gone over there at all to look, so.
I guess where would those go? We would try to,
Maybe they should go to the ramp. I'm not sure.
Regatta. Keep the
And then
geese
we're
away.
also working out with the city to see about composting. We're still we'd like to do that instead
Oh, yeah,
of
that'd be
putting them
good.
in plastic bags, but we don't know how we'll get them to the city composting location, so.
So we can have water chestnuts in our backyard when we use the organic soil?
No, they have to be submerged. That is a worry. People were
Just
worried
kidding.
they would get weeds in their yards or something. No, they compost very nicely. So,
And we chip as well.
yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's it.
All right, that's,
Oh, and just to add that yesterday we started our bacteria monitoring program with our intern and did our 10 sampling locations. So, sorry, not there.
fantastic.
Busy.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that was good. Review correspondence. So let me go through this quick.
We have a whole bunch.
Yes, we do. First one I have here is communication from the Marine Corps League regarding the docks over there. There's some concern that there's a safety issue between both for people and for boats, because the docks are it's very tight over there, so it's a tight spot in the thing. So I'm gonna actually, you guys are from the Marine Corps League, so I'm gonna do this. I will reach out to you in the next day or two, and we'll go over the whole thing. This came up a couple of years ago. I thought it was fixed, but apparently it's not So,
I have a lot of questions.
on this particular thing? Sure.
So my first question is, what are the past conditions and the issues? Because I'm not familiar with it. The second question is, how old are the docks at Meducas? Is this an enforcement issue or a land use engineering issue? Who are the boaters? Are they locals or are they from away? And is there a simpler solution for, such as traffic management, than ripping out the docks?
Okay, good question. I don't think we've got to the ripping out the dock stage yet. I'm gonna say that the underlying issue here, there's 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag right there. So, Meducas, didn't have a large dock system, probably previous, I'm not really sure when that went in, it's probably almost a decade ago now. And the Marine Corps has been there for, for a long time. So when Meducas put their dock in, which they got approval for, and he did that part all the right way. I don't think at the time that the city required anyone to go through Chapter 91 at that point. But those docks are inherently Chapter 91, as is the Marine Corps, because they're over 12 slips. So they certainly have purview over those docks. It is really tight over there. But, our guidance here is that basically, and this is what the state does, is that they extend the line out from the, no one owns the water. Well, the state owns the water, but, no resident or butter owns the water. So, really the only way you can do it is to kind of extend the line out, the property line out, and see if the docks cross the line. And if that's happening, then, there's an argument that they should probably adjust the dock to where it doesn't go over the line anymore. As far as navigation goes, if it's a navigational hazard, like it was sticking out too far on the lake, that's kind of a little cove there, so we don't really have a problem with the north-south traffic pattern there, except that I won't park my boat on the docks because it just gets the crap beat out of it over there, because the waves on a Sunday or Saturday are rough.
From the through traffic?
From the through traffic, yeah. So, but that's just a personal preference of mine, because I got gouges and all that stuff, and just sitting there waiting for ice cream. They don't have it bumpered properly, is my opinion.
Is that an area that should have a no-wake zone?
It has one.
It has
Supposed
one.
to have one, at least on the maps that we have.
The signs would be good to have there.
On where? No wake where?
In front of that cove, the whole thing.
Well, I could say there shouldn't be a wake in the cove, but that's Main Street, Lake Quinsigamond right there. So if you no wake that, I don't want to get silly with the no wake thing, because you won't be able to go anywhere.
No motorboats.
No motorboats. That's kind of where the slippery slope you go down, which is, I don't like banning anything, but that's an issue there. So there are certainly things we can do. I'd like to have this settled out between the two parties, would be my preference for this, to kind of figure it out in a reasonable fashion. But if we do need to step in, there could be unwanted changes on both sides. So just bear that in mind.
He's got some pictures just for yourself who was asking.
Well, the reason I don't want to bring all that stuff up right now is because the pictures don't show what we need to see, and what we need to see is if you were to take your property lines and extend them out into the lake, where would the docks fall? So that's what I want to do, and that's what I want to sit down with you folks and kind of go over that part of it, if that's okay.
Good.
It's not something we're just going to ignore or kick the can down the road. Again, I thought this was already done. We had discussions on both sides last time, and apparently it wasn't. So,
Yeah, we see a simple solution, the docks move, they need to be moved over. Because the tip is a very thin
right.
passageway.
He had 6 fingers, and now he has 8. He added those on a few years ago, and I don't know if he did that with your permission.
That was approved, yeah.
Okay.
So, and,
That makes it more difficult.
right, so let me go back and sit down, and we'll do this, by the numbers, we'll say, okay?
Yep.
So we'll get it down. So we'll sit down and figure it out. That fair?
Very good.
All right, Thank you. Can you tell me, this was, of the shallow water buoys, they want to know where the shallow water buoys were. They're not in yet. Some of them we need to get repairs, as in Half Moon Cove. And I don't think the buoys were also placed on the, is a buoy, Mike, out there in the, you know, the shallow part over in front of Suntag? Is that buoy in yet?
No, I don't think it's there.
There's a couple of markets that aren't in, so we'll have to
Yeah.
sit down. I'll go over this with Mike, and if that'll work for you guys, right? And again, I'm sincere with this. If you guys need any help doing that stuff, because that's a lot of, that's a big ask for you guys. You're not buoy installers, so. But if you need any help for us doing it, we get a volunteer party. We can help out.
Helps us,
What's that?
it helps us, we don't write as many accident reports as you want.
Yeah, exactly, because that's what happens out there, and someone's got to tow them. So, so I figured it out, and oh, someone had written about getting all the names of the islands that are on the lake. I actually sent her that information. So I went by one of my trusty atlas maps. So that was done. And this is a great organization. It's the Worcester Historical Museum. So they wanted to do, I don't know if they're gonna, I think they're thinking about putting a display in the museum, so that would be really cool. I also referred them to our resident lake historian. I won't mention any names.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
A comment?
Yep.
The QRA has several excellent maps that they have been distributing for the last 20 years to all of the colleges that come to row on the lake. And they explicitly name every island, every shallow point, et cetera. So just go to the QRA website and click on their maps.
Okay, I'll reach out to these guys and advise
Quick
them to do that.
question.
Yes.
Have the names always been the same, or
No.
did they have earlier names?
They had, the names change, and, some of it goes by owners, like, so whoever owned the island. There's some nicknames. There's some names that they're not actually the name of the island, but someone may say it's this island. But the one for me, had the most names that I know of is Drake. It's been Coast Guard Island, it's been Long Island, it's been, it's been a whole bunch of different, Eagle Island is the nickname, like that's where the Eagles are. So, yeah, it kind of changed around a little bit.
Did they ever have any Indian names?
That I know of, no, that's probably because the Indians didn't make the map. But,
The island off of the Polito property has an Indian name.
is it? I thought it was Plum Island.
Well, that had an Indian name before that, too. Before that,
Before that?
yeah. But,
Yeah,
again, we can get hung up.
Okay, yeah, and we have a zoning board thing here for 173 Lake Ave. So we already kind of talked about that. And there was another one in here which I don't see.
The electric motor one?
The electric
Yeah.
motor one, yeah.
Yeah.
So I did respond to the electric motor thing and said, well, I'm not really ready to, I don't think we're ready to start any initiative to go green on the lake until that technology becomes a lot more viable, and, they straighten out the battery issues, and there aren't a whole bunch of electric boats available. Matter of fact, most of the ones I've seen are too big for the lake. So, so there's that. But anyone, I think it's a good. I think electric boats are a good idea. When they come, that'll be great. We won't be putting any type of fossil fuel
Discharge into the
discharge into the water. That'd be awesome. So, I'm certainly not opposed to having it, but I'm not going to set a moratorium and say we need to do this by this date at this point,
Yeah.
until we have a little bit better handle on how the technology will catch up and get delivered to the consumer. So,
Back to the 173 Lake Ave, did we get an outcome on the public hearing that was held May 2nd?
I don't have an outcome for it, so.
Okay, so that's a zoning board of appeals, so I'll look that up.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Can I go back to the electric motor?
Yeah.
Just to make an academic point here, that there are things that, it's just not a green issue. There are things that we've been talking about that in the past half hour that are just intimately connected with this. And I'll just take a couple of minutes to mention. The only reason I know about this is, it turns out my brother has had a cottage down in Plymouth for years and years. And my eldest son has worked for Mass Heritage for 20 years and has been involved in a number of major experiments in Miles Standish State Forest, which is the same area. And my brother's eldest daughter is a high-level person in the DCR. So my family has kept me involved with what's been going on there in the last 30 years. And that whole area that's full of kettle ponds, because the state considered it very critical, particularly some of the plants that grow along the shore there. That's the reason why Natural Heritage is involved. The only places in New England that they grow. There's actually pitcher plants related to those down in South America that, that eat bugs that only grow around those kettle ponds. So the state, many years ago, well before my time, probably over 50 years ago, designated that all those ponds in that area can only have manually powered, kayaks, rowboats, canoes, or sailboats of any type, or small electric motors. And so there's never been large boats with gasoline-powered motors in any of those ponds. And the amazing thing is, without any other effort, basically, by people in Massachusetts, essentially all of those kettle ponds are free of all of the invasive species that we worry about and talk about every meeting in Lake Quinsigamond. It's amazing how, without trying to do anything else, by keeping large motorboats and gasoline and diesel engines off of a lake, does an amazing job to solve several other, what we consider unsolvable problems on large bodies of water.
Okay. Good, interesting point. I think there's no doubt in my mind that a lot of the invasives, probably all the invasives we have come here on a boat. And I think that probably the reasons that we have invasives in other parts of the pond besides, say, Flint, which is probably our densest crop of milfoil, at least, is because that people went over to Flint Pond with their boat and brought it back over to the lake. So now it's in-house, and we're just like having a cold. The cold comes in the house, and everybody in the house gets it. So that's kind of where we are now with that. Like Jacqueline had pointed out, we're not sure where the water chestnuts came from, or even I can't specifically say that after 1980, all of a sudden boats started bringing milfoil in. I don't know where it came from, but it's theoretically it could have come from a bird. There's a lot of things that could happen, especially milfoil, because you don't need much to spread it out. But that's interesting with the kettle ponds. I love them. I mean, in Nickerson, and it's just beautiful. Anyway.
Mr. Chair?
Yes. Go ahead.
I think it's well known that waterfowl also transfer some weeds from one water body to another. So, it's multitudinal. And number two, just to get back to what we started this on in terms of electric motors, I think you said it well enough, and that is, 10 or 20 years from now, maybe the technology will be there, so that can be given a serious consideration. But at this time, I think to set any timelines in terms of a date by, we can't tell the industry and the science when we want it to be done. This technology, the science has to kind of catch up to the point where it could be realistic to say, like wanting to have all vehicles on the road be electric cars. It's going to take a while.
Right,
So,
of course.
thank you. Mr.
Economically, too.
Right. Yeah, it's got to be affordable. So, or it's not going to be mainstream. All right. So that's the correspondence that I have. Did I miss anything?
There's a smell over by Vinnie T's.
Oh, I'm sorry. The smell of Vinnie T's. So, we did actually send the conservation agent down there and to sniff it out.
And then there's a new management company over at Eastern Point Condos, and they're just asking for information on documents.
So, I will reach out to Eastern Point. My understanding is all their docks are permitted. They put a new set of docks in, when was that? 4 or 5 years ago,
At least five.
right? Yeah,
I've been rolling by them for 5 years.
yeah, so, and those all had plates on them, as far as I know.
They're just asking about the renewal application process.
Oh, I'm sorry, I sent I did send those guys I sent them the PDF form, and I also sent them to the website. By the way, anyone at home watching right now, you can get the new dock application and the renewal forms on the website. And they're in PDF, and I believe you can actually fill them out. So there's that. So if you have, feel free to reach out to us if you need to ask us that, but they're on there. So all you have to do is type the Lake Quinsigamond Commission into Google, and it will get you the link to the Lake Quinsigamond Commission website, which is off the police website. So that's where we are. Anything else?
Oh, yes. Point.
Yeah.
Earlier, we skipped over the treasurer's report.
treasurer's report, I'm sorry.
Because we didn't have the information, and during the course of the meeting, the town of Shrewsbury has dropped off one bill, so I can mention it, we can vote
Please,
on it.
yes, yeah.
And it was for the postage for the dock renewal permits, that's what reminded me. So it's $172.20 postage for dock renewals, sending it out.
All right, do we want to pay for that?
Make a motion, we pay for that?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. So voted.
Next meeting, Mr.?
Next meeting,
June 28th, here.
June 28th, here at the
28th.
Commission is out for the summer.
Selectmen's Room. We don't have to call it the new Selectmen's Room anymore, because there's no old Selectmen's Room anymore, right? So just the Selectmen's Room. All right, so, June 28th, 7 o'clock, don't miss it. I think that's it. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to
Second.
adjourn.
All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you, thanks for coming.